Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue. And 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do I appreciate? Sonia Mansfield, my co-host.
Are you ready for some football?
Woo!
Woo! Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the show that talks about creeps from the past to the present. Most of the time, it's a human. Here, it is an organization that we're talking about. If this is your first time, once again, we talk about somebody that's a creep, and then we challenge the other person to come up with someone who is not a creep. This show is like Super Bowl size. I don't know if we're going to get sued for saying that out loud. I don't think we're allowed to say the sports ball, whatever.
The NFL can be very litigious, so let's. It is a
jumbo-sized
episode. Probably, I hit the maximum word count on this baby. So.
And our non-creep is a spectacular human being who has a big story attached to him that we'll get into it. We're going to get into the weeds today. I want to say thank you to everybody for being supportive. Last week, I had a personal issue at home with like my little four-legged friend here. And she's hanging in there. And I thank you all for the notes and the encouragement. I really appreciate it. We do have a basic Facebook page, I should say first, and all the episodes are first posted there. So if you're having any issues, by the way, with the issues not playing all the way to the end, maybe check the Facebook page. That's usually a place people go to complain about our language. This is a show where we use salty language, and I have a feeling we're going to use a lot of it today.
Fuck yeah!
We also have a private Facebook group. Be sure to join that if you want to interact with us. We ask, we have 3 questions, very simple questions to answer. If you listen to the top of the show, you should be able to do it. We also ask that we know the topics can be a little heated at times, but just be good to be good to each other. Think twice before you respond, maybe.
We ask that you not be a creep in the group. That's all.
That's all. And but we get it. Sometimes we all get heated sometimes. That's no big deal. Anyway, we are on Twitter. As long as Twitter still exists at CreepPod. I don't see any engagement there, but let's see. Let's keep it going. And we have CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for 10 years and never used it.
Great.
We're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast, and we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you would like some stickers, reach out to us and give us your address, and wherever you are on the planet of Earth, I will slap it on a football and take it down the touchdown, whatever. I'll send it to you. Anyway, that's my whole point. We also are always looking for suggestions for creeps, and especially non-creeps. And y'all live all over the world. You give us great suggestions for people because we're dumb Americans. We know everything about our country, but it's helpful for us to learn about creeps and non-creeps from wherever you are in the world. And Sonia, do you want to talk to them today about the website?
Yes, you can go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about the podcast, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our past episodes, and in those episodes are all of our show notes, and we link all of our sources. So we're not just making this stuff up. We want to give credit where credit is due, credit the reporters that actually did the dirty work here. And you can go there and find all the sources. And there's a link to our merch shop where you could get t-shirts and mugs and tote bags and all the wonderful things with our logos on it. And there's also a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. We have our first 5 seasons of the show up on the Patreon wall. We use the money to, like Sonia says, to buy the news sources and the software for the computers and for the editing and for all that stuff for the show, the platforming for the show. And we really appreciate everyone who supports us there. And I want to give a shout out. I looked up the pronunciations here because we have a couple of Gaelic people. Neve, Stephanie, Jean, Griselda, Larry, and Licky. I think I got all those correct. Thank you all for joining our Patreon page. Nice. We have the first 5 seasons, of the show up there. Plus, we put out 2 bonus episodes a month, and then Sonia does a rad newsletter. So if you support us, that would be great. But trust us, if money is tight, if you could just, be sure to subscribe. If you can leave us a review or wherever you get your podcast, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you to the following people who left us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We have Nappy Dresser, Hoopla Cat, and Stephen, born in Greece. I think that's his thing. But thank you all for leaving us really great reviews. It really helps people find the show around other cool podcasts that are like we are, and it helps drown out the assholes. So we say thank you all so very much for doing that. And I think I got through everything. Sonia, what do you think?
Okay, that sounds good. Are you ready to tackle some football?
Oh, here come the puns.
Ooh,
this is going to be punnerific.
Talking about the NFL, here's some trigger warnings. Besides bad football puns, and there will be some, we're going to be talking about sexual assault, sexual harassment, concussions, and suicide, unfortunately. So take care of yourselves, y'all. Sources for this episode, there's a lot. AP News, Bleacher Report, CNN, The Conversation, ESPN, The Nation, NBC News, The New York Times, NFL's website, NPR, Ranker, which did a great list of all the players that have been arrested for domestic violence. I'm not going to list all these players because then the episode would be 5 hours long.
We should also say, and I think we made this clear in our Patreon bonus episode, but we're talking about the league. We're not talking about specific teams.
Yes.
Right. We're not hyper focusing that way because we'd be here all week.
Yes.
We'd be here till the next season starts.
Correct.
We'd be in a huddle until then, Sonia. Hello.
Hi-yo. We also got SB Nation, Scientific American, and of course our good friends at Wikipedia. And as Margot said, we are talking about the NFL on a higher level. There's a ton of stories about specific NFL teams. We could do an episode about each team if you want. Like, it's a thing. But we're not going to do that. So if you're listening and you're like, but what about this player? What about that thing that happened? Like, I probably read about it, decided that falls under specific team stuff, and decided to put it aside.
Right.
So let me start with this. Margot, do you like football?
I used to love football. And when I lived in the Bay Area, I went to San Jose State, which I'll give it a shout out later. I was totally into the 49ers. Big time. But over the last 10 years or so, I've been less and less into it, to the point now I just watch the Super Bowl, and I really just kind of watch for the ads and for the halftime show.
Yeah. By the way, I grew up in the Bay Area. So in the 80s, the 49ers were the shit.
And 90s.
They were the thing. Yeah. So like everybody here loves football. Here's the thing. I'm not a football girl. I've never been a football girl. I am a baseball girl that is no better or worse than this. Baseball, I could do a whole episode about the MLB. Like, it's a thing.
We probably will.
All of these, or we did a whole episode just about the Houston Astros. So you never know.
Right.
What's going to float my boat. But I'm not really into football, but I've grown up around a lot of football. So, and by the way, when I talk about football, I mean American football, not football, which is soccer. Goal! That's all around the world, but Americans have decided that we're football because we're the worst.
And the metric system. Those are two things we refuse to acknowledge. We are idiots.
So if you're not here in the United States, just so you know, the NFL is the National Football League. It's a professional American football league. It's 32 teams. And it's divided between the American Football Conference, the AFC, and the National Football Conference, the NFC. And it's insanely popular here. The NFL has TV contracts with 5 different networks. So it's like ABC, CBS, ESPN, Fox, and NBC. Let me make this clear for people again outside the country. ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox are like the main stations that like kind of everybody gets, and then ESPN is like our sports specific thing. So like football is always on when it's football season, and
it gets huge ratings.
Yes, it is. Like the most popular things being watched on TV during football season. It is the wealthiest professional sport in the world. The NFL has the highest average attendance for games in the world. It is the most popular sport in the United States, but it's also got a lot of creepy behavior, including a culture of sexual harassment, doling out light punishment for players that are convicted of sexual assault, domestic violence. There's racism within the organization, and full on just ignoring player safety. Mm-hmm. So here's quick little history. The NFL was formed in 1920 as the American Professional Football Association, and then renamed itself the National Football League in 1922. Eventually, the NFL merged with a rival, the American Football League, and that's when the Super Bowl started, and that was in 1967. And that's how they determine the champions between the NFL and the AFL. And the Super Bowl's a big fucking deal in the United States. Everyone loses their mind. And that's your history lesson. That's all you get. So now I've divided this all up, their creepy behavior, into different categories. We've got money, player safety, racism, abuse, and that's going to include sexual assault, domestic violence, sexual harassment, and Michael Vick. I just threw Michael Vick in there. And then a little section I'm calling, seriously, fuck the New England Patriots. So we'll end with that one. So let's start with money. Did you know that up until 2015, the NFL was a nonprofit?
No, I did not know that. What?
Okay. That was a thing. So at a corporate level, the National Football League was considered a trade association. I'm putting that in quotes because it was made up and financed by its 32 teams. It was specifically written into the IRS code. It's a section 501c6 provides an exemption from taxes for business leagues, chambers of commerce, real estate boards, boards of trade, and professional football leagues.
I'm gobsmacked. Are you kidding me?
No. So until 2015, the NFL did not pay taxes. The teams paid taxes, but the NFL did not pay taxes. So, but was it a nonprofit? Not really. The NFL as a whole made $10 billion. That was only in 2013. The NFL League office had a revenue of over $300 million.
Oh my God.
And they were exempt from taxes. Isn't that bananas?
I'm going to start a football league. I'm going to do that right now.
Y'all, you don't need to start cults. You don't need to start religions. Start a football league.
No MLM. Just, yeah. Put them on a
Start
field and beat the shit out of each other.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the NFL gave up their tax exempt status because it was turning into this PR nightmare. And this is hilarious to me. So some senators from states that didn't have football teams were like, hey, fuck the NFL. They should pay taxes. And then they started threatening to hold hearings, like Senate hearings about the NFL and why they're not paying taxes. And this is, you're going to see this as a reoccurring thing with the NFL. Instead of having to share their documents, they will just start settling. So the NFL was like, fuck it, we're going to pay taxes. And this way they didn't have to share their stuff. Like they don't have to explain why they pay the commissioner like more than $50 million a year to run a supposed nonprofit.
I do it for half that, Sonia.
Right?
Just so you know.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So here you go. For about 73 years, the NFL made a shit ton of money and they didn't pay taxes. So that's cool. Here's another random money thing that I'm just going to throw in here. In 2011, ESPN got a deal with the NFL and it was worth $15 billion. And not only would the so ESPN would then have the games, right? That was the big thing. But ESPN also like covers sports like as journalists. So it creates this conflict of interest, obviously. And ESPN wanted to have a show. They were going to do this like dramatic series that was going to be their like venture into like dramatic television. And they were going to do a show called Playmakers. And it was going to be all steamy football, woo, kind of thing. And the NFL was like, no, we don't support that. So they couldn't do it. Yeah. Like, and then ESPN was supposed to partner with PBS on a special for Frontline called League of Denial, which is about concussions. And we're going to get into that. And NFL was like, no, we don't like that. So ESPN pulled out of doing that as well. So like, just maybe don't look to ESPN for unbiased coverage of the NFL is what I'm getting. And that, again, that I put this in the money category because I feel like it has something to do about money. So now we're going to talk about player safety, specifically concussions, because the league has been criticized for years about its role in preventing and dealing with concussions. So in 94, the former commissioner, Paul Tagliabue. Yes, that's it. Thank you. He created this committee, and it's called the Mild. I love that they put that in there. The Mild Traumatic Brain Injury Committee. It just rolls up the tongue to study the effects of concussions on players. Around the same time, a neuropathologist, Bennett Omlu, he was diagnosing players with CTE. Now, I looked this up so that I could pronounce it correctly. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Encephalopathy, which is CTE. I'm going to get into that in a second. The first player he diagnosed, by the way, was someone from the Pittsburgh Steelers named Mike Webster, just in case anybody wants to know. And I'm not trying to pronounce that word again. From now on, CTE.
No more Webster. It's too hard.
So CTE it's believed to be caused by repetitive head trauma, and it leads to conditions like dementia, rage, and depression.
Oh, Jesus
Christ. It'll fuck you up.
Yeah. And especially a player after they're hit their prime. Like they're just kind of, yeah.
Yes. So Bennett shares his results with the NFL, and the NFL said, oh, good. How can we help our players? Just kidding. They said they hounded him for years to try to withdraw his findings. Since his discovery of this, he tested 91 former NFL players for CTE, and 87 of them came back with signs of CTE. Almost all of them. And there's a movie about this called Concussion with Will Smith, if anybody wants to not watch it. He does. If you don't want to watch a documentary about it called League of Denial, you could watch Concussion if you want. I heard it's not very good, but please enjoy it. Another neuropathologist, Ann McKee, spent 8 years examining the brains of deceased NFL players, ex-NFL players, I guess. She found that she studied 45 brains. 45 of them had CTE.
Yeah, there's players that have been donating their bodies to science because of this. Yeah.
Yes. And so she has said, I really think, I'm really wondering if every single football player has this.
Yeah.
And then she shared her research with the NFL in 2009. And she said the room was filled with men who kept interrupting her and questioning the link between concussions and brain damage.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But actually,
source, please.
So just to put a human face on these numbers that I'm talking about.
More of a comment than a question.
Blah, yeah, blah, but she said, she said sexism is a part of my life. And getting in the room with a bunch of males who already thought they knew all the answers. She said they were like, oh, good. The girl talked. Now we can get back to some serious business.
Oh, Jesus. I know her feeling. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm putting human faces on these numbers. So in 2012, There's a former San Diego Chargers linebacker named Junior Seau. Did I pronounce Seau? He actually committed suicide. He was 43. He was only 43.
Yeah.
And he had CTE. Again, dementia, depression, leads to early Alzheimer's. Like, the shit fucks you up. So in 2013, more than 4,500 former NFL players, some of them suffering from CTE, all these different depression, like dementia, depression, Alzheimer's, like all the things, sued the NFL and accused it of concealing the dangers of concussions and then rushing these players back onto the field. And then shortly after, the NFL reached a almost $800 million settlement with them and agreed to compensate them, pay for medical expenses, and fund research into CTE. To be clear, they settled out of court for a reason, because again, the NFL doesn't want to share their internal files.
Right.
They don't want to share what they knew and when they knew it. Mm-hmm. And lawyers in particular really wanted to know about their bullshit mild traumatic brain injury committee,
right.
But they didn't get any of the paperwork because they settled. And here we are 10 years later after this, a former White Star receiver, his name is Demaryius Thomas, had stage CTE when he died a year after retiring from football. He was 33.
Oh my God.
33! It's the things these players are putting their bodies through.
Right.
Is, oh man. So, and just last week, literally just last week, this wouldn't have even been in, if we had done the episode when we were originally going to do it, this wouldn't have been in here. A group of former NFL players are suing the league's disability benefits program and the current commissioner, Roger Goodall, accusing them of routinely denying their disability claims.
Right. Well, we have this money, but you have to jump through all these hoops.
Yes.
So to speak, until you can get
yes.
Any, and they'll wear you the fuck down.
Yes.
Right.
And not only are they, so they're denying them and they're making them jump through all these hoops to get to it. Any doctor that approves the players for benefits faces a financial consequence. So again, let's put a human face on a story. Eric Smith used to play for the New York Jets until 2012. He has 13 different traumatic brain injuries throughout his career at the NFL. And he was denied benefits in 2013 and 2014. Reapplies in 2015. He's seen by a doctor and he's approved for benefits. That doctor was paid almost $35,000. After Smith got his benefits, that doctor's compensation from the board fell. It was like cut in half. The following year, that doctor made $15,000 from the board. Like,
wow.
It's like, you will play ball or we will not pay you. It's fucked up. And on top of all of that, because there's more, from the 90s till just 2021, the NFL physicians were taking claims of dementia and they would assume that Black patients start with worse cognitive function than whites.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
Isn't this is something that was happening until 2 fucking years ago. And it made it more difficult for Black players to show a deficit and qualify for disabilities.
Oh, for God's sakes. And they make so much fucking money off these.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
They make so much money. So this was a thing. And it was called race norming. It's race norming. It's a thing. And Black players were routinely denied awards that they would have qualified for had they been white. Fuck the NFL. So on top, so let's put a little bit more racism in the pile here. So in 2022, as of last year, 70% of NFL players are Black. There are 3 Black coaches. That's it.
Oh yeah.
And 2 of them have filed discrimination lawsuits against the NFL for their hiring practices. They have and the NFL did their own like study in 2019, and they even confirmed for themselves that like Black coaches were less likely to receive a second chance at coaching a team. So we've talked about this usually about white men and women. So it's like how white men are judged on their potential and white women are judged by results. That goes for non-white men in the NFL. Like, there are no second chances for you if you're not a white male in the NFL.
Wow.
It's bananas. Okay. And now we're going to talk about abuse. So everybody prepare yourself. So this one's pretty recent, and it's a good example of what I'm talking about. And that's why I wanted to start with it. So there's a quarterback who used to play for the Houston Texans, and his name is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was sued by more than 25 massage therapists for sexual harassment and sexual assault. 25.
Oh my God.
He got an 11-game suspension. But just last season signed a 5-year contract worth $230 million. It's one of the largest contracts in NFL history with the Cleveland Browns. Like, there's no repercussions for this kind of, like, 11-game suspension, but now he's got one of the largest contracts in NFL history.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
There's like no repercussions. And that's just at like, that's like a team level, but also NFL level. And that's why I included it, because the NFL has policies in place to like take care of shit like this, but they don't. And they enforce it very willy-nilly. So here's another one. In July 2020, more than 40 women talked to the New York Times. They were former employees of what was then known as the Washington Redskins. I believe that team is now called the Washington Commanders or something like that. I don't know. The Washington football team, let's call them that. These included office workers and cheerleaders, and they were sexually harassed, discriminated against by the team owner. His name is Dan Snyder.
Oh, not Schneider.
Not Schneider. Just making it clear.
Okay.
Dan Snyder. But they were harassed by him, other male executives, colleagues, and players. Like, it was just like, sorry, ladies. Like,
women just want to do their jobs.
Yes.
Leave us alone. Let us just do our jobs in peace.
We just want to do our work. We don't want to look at your dick.
We have to pay our bills just like you do. You know, we got to work for a living. We shouldn't have to deal with your dick in the process.
Yeah. So in response, the NFL fined the team $10 million, which seems like a lot of money. And then Snyder was like, hey, I'll step down from running the team's day-to-day operations for a few months. He handed the responsibilities over to his wife.
Oh, for God's sake.
Which I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, hey, honey, I'm being fined millions of dollars for sexual harassment. You mind filling in for me at the office? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is going on these NFL teams? I don't know, but there you go. But it got bigger. So then, like, late last year, Washington, D.C.'s like attorney general got involved and filed like a consumer protection lawsuit against the NFL and that Washington football team, and included Snyder specifically. So something is going to happen there, but that's because the NFL didn't do shit about it. They didn't do anything.
Commanders, by the way.
Yes. Oh, what did I call it? The Commandeers or something?
Yeah. I thought it was something else, but I think that's the baseball team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I probably was mixing it up with that, but I'm still going to refer to them as the
They're
Washington
assholes.
football team. Yeah. I don't think I have to refer to them again anyway. So, and then most recently, there's this Buffalo Bills rookie punter named Mac Azaria, I think is how you pronounce it. The team released him after reports came out that he had been accused of, and this is fucked up, leading a violent gang rape involving 2 other football players of a 17-year-old on the San Diego State campus.
Ugh.
But here's the thing. This happened like last year or something. The survivor went to the police, and the police were like, "Brr?" Like they didn't do shit to help her.
Mm-hmm. Go to the campus police. Don't come to us. Yeah, they go back and forth.
Yeah. So she filed a civil suit. So now the news is like, it's out there. This is a thing. Other teams actually passed on him, even though they needed someone. They were like, no, thanks. Like, we know that he's been credibly accused of rape and that this lawsuit is coming. And the Bills knew it, but they didn't care. And they still signed him. And it wasn't until like outrage became unavoidable and then the coach was like, I feel bad for everyone involved. And that's when he got cut from the team. And there's a lot of stories like that. And most of those stories fall under the idea of specific teams, not the NFL. Although I would argue that the NFL lets teams get away with shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they issue their like unfortunate press releases and hope the story will go away. Basically, that's their PR crisis management right there. It's like, we're really sorry for everyone involved. And then they're just quiet and hope that it goes away. And they maybe
we're going to take
them
this seriously.
Totally. We're going to form a committee or we're going to donate some money to a domestic violence or sexual assault organization or something. And then they don't do anything. It just happens over and over. So in April last year, the attorney generals of 6 different states wrote a letter to the NFL commissioner expressing the concern over the league's treatment of women, specifically their employees, and like called them out for lack of improvement on their workplace culture.
Mm-hmm.
It outlines like gender discrimination, the treatment of women, how they deal with players who are convicted of domestic violence, and just like the hiring and promotion of women in the NFL offices specifically. More than 30 different NFL employees who are women have said that they've dealt with unwanted touching. They attended parties where prostitutes were hired. Sex workers. Attending parties where sex workers were hired. They were passed over for promotions based on their gender and then being pushed out when they complain about discrimination.
And then people just say like, well, just don't hire women then because
yes,
they're just a problem. Jesus Christ.
Yes. So to put a face to that, Ramona Washington, she's a Black woman who used to work as a production coordinator at the NFL Network. She quit because she just couldn't deal with it anymore. She had written a story about biases among the managers, and they just threw it away. They literally threw it away. They were never going to run it. And Washington told the New York Times, people would say to me, you really want to leave the NFL? And she said, yes, with running shoes on. Yeah. Like she couldn't fucking get away fast enough. And they have a problem, like a serious problem in the culture of the NFL, in the like offices of the NFL, but also how they handle the way they respond to players' behavior. So in 2007, the NFL like set up this conduct policy. I'm going to put it in quotes. And the idea was going to control off-field behavior by players. So like if they get arrested for domestic violence, we're going to dole out this kind of punishment. But it was never designed to like educate anyone or prevent these things from happening.
Right.
It was like, here's how we're going to respond after these things happen.
Versus teaching them to not beat up other people and not drive drunk and not to attack their families. Yes.
It's 100% reactive, not proactive. And there's no set of rules or consequences. It's just this like vague concept in which the commissioner, Roger Goodell,
whatever.
Yeah. Hands out punishment on like a case by case basis. So like the NFL has a history of like really like inconsistent punishment for domestic violence with its players. It's usually like the average is about 2 game suspension. But if you are caught with drugs, and that could be performance-enhancing drugs or just illegal recreational drugs,
right,
for 4 game suspension. is the average. So like drugs, super bad, beating up women,
not so bad.
No biggie. Not so bad. Yeah, less bad.
They'd rather you didn't.
Yes, we'd rather you didn't, but And there's just a very, like I said, very long list of NFL players who have been accused or charged with domestic violence. They face little to no consequences. And there's too many to list here. So I put a link in the show notes to Ranker. Go to Ranker. But I am going to talk about like one case in particular because it's kind of the one I think that most people know, which is Ray Rice. He was a Baltimore Ravens running back. And there was a video of him like punching his fiance in the face in an elevator, like knocking her unconscious and then like physically dragging her out of the elevator. This was in Atlantic City in 2014. It's fucked up. This is like TMZ was like, we go. Like TMZ was so excited to have the footage. Just so fucked up. And the Ravens like issue their statement and they're like, this is a serious matter, quote unquote. And it's like a matter for the court. Yeah, you think? But it's like a serious matter for the courts, not for them. They didn't do anything about it. So like, it's not until like he gets indicted on 3rd-degree aggravated assault. He's going to get possible jail time and a fine. By the way, 6 weeks after this, he and his fiance got married, and that's a whole other thing.
Well,
but
that's
like,
a whole
whatever.
other, she's probably in a she's in a fucked up relationship. Yeah. We're not blaming her because she didn't do anything wrong. No, I'm not blaming her, but I also think that it had something to do with, I think the way the NFL and the Ravens responded had to do with, well, she took him back. So what can we do?
And it's like, no, you're still responsible for
creating a safe work environment, which is like he could beat up somebody else there if he gets pissed off. Like, it's not okay.
He's also
I'm sorry, Sonia. They do a ton of publicity when they're doing these shows. They're faces of the team.
Yes, exactly. It's fucked up. And he ended up getting suspended for 2 whole games.
Oh my God.
That's all.
Well, that fixed him.
Yeah, I'm sure he felt really responsible. But there was a huge, massive outcry about the lack of accountability. And he wasn't playing football after that. Like the Ravens were like, but again, it's only because we had to like I was part of it. People had to shine a light on it in order for them to deal with it because they won't deal with it if you don't say something.
We have these CCTV cameras now that catches a lot of this shit, but we used to not have that. And also people just, unless somebody's arrested and convicted, they think it didn't happen without taking into account all the other things that happen around a crime.
Yes. It's so fucked up. So shortly after all of that, the NFL commissioner comes out and he's like, we're going to have longer suspension lengths for domestic violence. And, we're going to institute this policy. But of course, like the academic journal, The Violence Against Women, did a study. They looked at like the past 19 years of the NFL. And I guess you'll be really surprised to hear that players who were charged with domestic violence and sexual assault, there was not much in the way of repercussions. They were still willing to play those players, then use like a backup player.
Right.
It's like, yeah. In other words, teams are down to cut ties with like lower performing players. I don't know why I keep doing the air quotes thing, like y'all could see it.
I was going to say like double secret probation.
Yeah, it's like like lower performing players. But if you were like a star or a middle of the roster player, they were less likely to do anything about it. It's like fucking duh. Like, and it's hot take. The NFL doesn't want to do. They don't want to do anything about it if you're a really good player. And I think a good example of that is someone like Michael Vick. And I'm going to do this one real quick because this one really, because it really upsets me. And I'm not going to get into details because I will start crying. But in 2007, he was then playing for the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Vick, it turned out, was running an illegal interstate dogfighting ring. And it is fucked up.
Right.
I'm not going into it. But he was also involved in like extortion, gambling, and then like what he was doing with those dogs, which again, not detailed. The commissioner comes out and he's like, this is cruel and reprehensible. It's like, yeah, whatever. And then they suspended him, quote unquote, indefinitely. He's suspended, but the NFL was more focused on the fact that he was involved in betting than the harming of animals.
And it's so fucked up, those things. And there's a documentary about the animals they found, the dogs.
Yeah.
And they almost all of them were adopted and did great because people thought they were going to have to euthanize them, but they didn't, thank God. But
that's good.
I mean, we don't deserve dogs. They're far better than humans, but
I don't understand how people can hurt an animal or children, to be on like
vulnerable people.
The things that vulnerable people, vulnerable animals, the things that look to us to take care of them. It's like, fuck you.
I took a week off for my cat. I mean, I cannot imagine. I don't imagine that cruelty and that.
So he was suspended indefinitely. Indefinitely meant about 2 years. So he pled guilty to what he did. He did serve time in prison. And then he came back to the NFL in 2009. He played with the Philadelphia Eagles. He made the Pro Bowl, and he earned Comeback Player of the Year. And I know that people are going to be like, well, he served his time. Fuck those people, and fuck Michael Vick. Just saying.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care. Take it somewhere else. Michael Vick, fuck you. And now a segment I like to call Seriously, Fuck the New England Patriots. So we actually did a whole episode about we did a
Tom
sports
Brady.
creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked about Tom Brady and I talked about Deflategate. So I don't want to repeat too much of that, but there was like NFL suspended Brady for 4 games because he was quote unquote generally aware of the scheme, and they fined the Patriots $1 million, which is nothing to the Patriots. They make so much fucking money, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year anyway, and they probably cheated. But before all of that, there was something called Spygate. Which, if you heard if you've heard our episode about the Houston Astros, which is also very similar to this, you will know what I think about people who fucking cheat during sporting events. So, Spygate was 2007, and the Patriots were accused of taping the New York Jets defensive signals from the sidelines during the game, and they got caught. They're fucking cheating. And they get caught. And here comes the coach, Bill Belichick, or whatever the fuck his name is. Fuck that guy. He comes out and he's like, I respect the integrity of the game. No, you don't. Fuck you. You're a fucking cheater. Dude cheats every chance he gets. Fucking filming, hand thing, the signals, fucking Deflategate. Fuck these people. Anyway, 4 days after they're caught, they fine him $500,000. And the Patriots had to forfeit a first round pick. And the team was fined $250,000. That's nothing.
They could sneeze that money. It's
exactly. It is nothing. It is no. It's a drop in the bucket. They make that in one day selling their fucking Tom Brady's jerseys.
Right. They make so much money off of merch.
Yeah. And the reason I was seriously, fuck the New England Patriots is because the Patriots, they win a lot, but they've been accused of cheating multiple times. And people are like, it's because they're the greatest team in the world. And I was like, no, they're probably fucking cheating all the time. And the NFL doesn't care because the Patriots make a lot of money because they win a lot. So it's just this cycle.
Brady.
And they had Brady, and he's bleh,
and Giselle would be in the crowd, and there's the sexiness to it.
Yeah, it's yucky, and honestly, I could just go on and on, but this is where I'm ending it. So, the NFL is our fucking creep. What's another way I could put this? Oh yeah, fuck the NFL, fuck them. Seriously, fuck the NFL.
Thank you, Sonia. That was amazing. Good job. You
Thank
can now
you.
do your touchdown dance, spike the ball, do any dance you want. They have like fucking fines for these players if their socks aren't pulled correctly, if they dance too much in the end zone.
You're too happy.
Your hair's too
That's
long.
a fine.
You have a mustache and a beard. But this guy beats his family and, well,
I guess that's just his business.
you know, I don't care if they pull a hibachi out at the end when they score. I don't give a shit.
Seriously.
Let them celebrate. I mean,
Dude, if they want to do happy dances,
let them backflip.
go for it.
Do it. But yeah, like they have stupid ass rules like that they try to keep them in place, but they don't give a shit about the safety.
Marco, that is an excellent point.
Thank you.
Like you will look the same. You will march.
Right.
And you will entertain us like gladiators.
It was a big deal, like Brian, not Boitano. He's not a football
What would
player.
Brian Boitano do
if he were here right now? I bet he'd kick an ass or two. That's what Brian Boitano do.
And Boitano do.
No, Brian Bosworth. Remember him? The Boz in the 80s.
Yes.
And he had like a mullet and he dyed the hair and shit like that. And people with mohawk and people would just be like, oh my God, he's so rebellious. And he got a lot of hassles for it. He's like, it's my hair. Like, and he happened to be a pretty smart person and was just able to argue eloquently. Like, what does it give a shit about my hair length or any? But the NFL was like, seriously, they would go up to Joe Montana and be like, you need to pull up your socks more. We could see your some skin below your kneecap. I'm not kidding you. Like,
it's so stupid.
It's so fucking stupid. They can make rules like that, but they don't take. I mean, it's okay.
I know people are going to be like, but I love to watch football. That's fine.
Too.
Watch football if you want to. That's fine. I don't watch football because I've just never watched football.
Right.
I will absolutely watch a compilation of like mascots getting hurt or I'll watch the halftime show, but like man, you want to watch sports and these players they're talented and they're super strong and like I get it. I watch baseball.
Right.
Like and Maybe I'll do an episode on the MLB. Because seriously, fuck them too.
But these athletes, I mean, they put their bodies through so much.
Yeah.
And they have maybe like 3-4 years if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then you're in your 30s, and then what do you do for a living? And your body breaks down and everything like that. And it's like they should be making more money. There should be much more aftercare for them when they're done.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, there's all kinds of stories about them like losing their money or like there's all kinds of shit that happens, and it's like the NFL doesn't care. Like as long as you are touchdowning for them or whatever.
Are you not entertained? Like, but the domestic violence stuff is tied to like the CTE, and
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure like and the roid rage and shit like that.
Yes.
And the pressure that they're under. It's a highly pressurized game. Like there's millions of people who watch dumb games, like preseason games. Like so there's a lot of pressure.
And these fans, they lose their shit.
And I always think of this. My dad explained this to me once. He's like, you look at it when he looks at football. He's like, think about it. That guy who's like the third kicker on the team is a hero in his hometown. Like he aced several sports. They have his jersey on a wall. Like these are elite athletes, and they're under so much pressure, and they can be hurt horribly. We didn't even get into the injuries on the field that have happened. I mean, it's just.
There was one recently. I was like, I didn't see where it would really fit in this episode, but there was a player recently, he just collapsed on the field.
And that happens a lot. And it happens a lot at training camps because they're in the middle of summer, they're doing 2 days and they're just abused. And that's like, and we didn't even mention like the asshole fans in some cities. Philadelphia.
Oh, the fans. Yeah, fans that lose there's fans that lose their shit when their teams lose, right? There's fans that lose their shit when their team wins.
Yeah.
Like you can't win. Then there's like the fans that like fully like destroy their homes when their team loses. Like I've seen footage of the dudes who like knock their giant TVs over.
Right.
Like, and that's not just related to football. That's related to almost all sports. But like,
wrestling. It could be a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a problem.
But there's also like athleticism that's beautiful to watch, like
Yes.
Montana to Rice, like throw in the ball.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I can watch that all day.
By the way, I'll watch any football movie you put in front of me.
Yeah, they make great sports movies. Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll watch Friday Night Lights right now if you want to. That's great.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm totally in. But yeah. All right. We have our non-creep coming up, and Sonia, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Quite a story. During the Super Bowl, should I have said that word? The big sports ball thing that was last Sunday.
Please don't sue us.
The Super Bowl takes place in a different city every year, so it's not necessarily at the place where the home teams are playing. Usually it's not. So it was playing in Arizona this year. And there's a whole section where they gave an award for the Pat Tillman Foundation. Mm-hmm. And there were people who earned scholarships from that. And because he's considered such a hero in Arizona, I'm going to get into him. But there was this talk on Twitter right away, like, oh, seriously? You're going to talk? So they mentioned that Pat Tillman died serving his country. He left the NFL to serve his country and he died. Mm-hmm. And they're like, but they didn't talk about the whole story about him. Like, well, no, you're not going to do that during an awards ceremony in the middle of the goddamn Super Bowl. Like, no, they're not going to go into, we're going to go into what he went through. But people visibly, and I get why people got upset. And I was like, this was back when I was really into football. But so Patrick Daniel Tillman, Bay Area guy, he's from Fremont.
Yes.
And he went to high school in San Jose. Like I said, I went to San Jose State. He was born 1976. He was from a family. He's the oldest of three brothers. He was raised in a family where they were proud, loud, upfront atheists. And they were big time readers. And this is a family where there was a lot of debate going on and a lot of talking about things. He was incredibly handsome, I have to say. I hope that doesn't come across as, but he's a slice of nice, as I like to say.
I'm going to look him up.
Look his ass up because he's hot. He was a star player in high school.
Hi.
He's like, right?
Oh, hello.
Fan yourself, right?
I should say I've only seen the picture of him in his uniform, but now I'm looking at these other pictures and I'm like, he's
super. I mean, he's very like in the John Wayne, maybe / surfer boy thing.
Sure.
He's got light hair, light eyes. He's very masculine looking. He's like 5'11" and just cut. And he played baseball and he was into running. He was into triathlons. Super, super smart. And he wins these big games in high school, the Central Coast Division I football championship. And from that, he was able to go to Arizona State University on a full football scholarship. He is a hero in Arizona. He graduated with a 3.85 GPA.
Damn.
Very, very smart. He was Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year. He was named Arizona's MVP in 1997. He's super duper smart and he can't wait to play in the NFL. And he gets drafted to play for the Arizona Cardinals. And he gets drafted in 2001. He gets married to his high school sweetheart, who's lovely, 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 lovely. They're this gorgeous couple. They're living in Arizona. And then 9/11 happens, the September 11th attacks. And he witnesses this, from his home like everybody did.
Yes.
And he told his spouse, I'm going to join the military. Because he said, this is America on the line. That he came from a military family. All of his relatives had served in the different wars. Mm-hmm. And he felt like, well, a patriot in not like my country's perfect, but he was a patriot in that he believed in the American dream and democracy. And he wanted to fight for it. And the Cardinals offered him a $2.1 million career. And he was offered more money to play at other cities, but he wanted to stay in Arizona. He was loyal to the Cardinals. He sent to Iraq, and as soon as he gets there, he joins with his younger brother, Kevin, who was a minor league baseball player. And they're two handsome boys just like going off to war. And it is the PR story wet dream for like George Bush and co.
Yes.
It's this is handsome all-American guy giving up millions at 25 to go fight because he thought it was the right thing to do. He goes over there and he's there for a couple of years, and he was the 2nd Ranger Battalion in the 75th Ranger Regiment. He's in the Iraq War. And pretty soon after he's there, he realizes, he tells his friends, this war is fucking illegal. And he's debating the other guys there about the legality of it. And he's debating his generals and his sergeants. He's debating everybody. He was an atheist, but he read the Book of Mormon. He read the Quran. He read the Bible. And he led with humility. Everybody says he was super smart. Like I said, super handsome. Could have been the biggest asshole that was occasionally nice to somebody and they'd be like, oh, what a great guy. But he was, all
Such
that
a good way of pointing it out. Yes.
White man, handsome man privilege. He had all of that, and he still was very humble and treated people with decency. But he also had ethics, and he had a huge fucking problem with the war in Iraq. He thought it was bullshit. He wanted to fight in Afghanistan. He was shot on April 22nd, 2004, and was told that he was shot in battle. And they were sending his body home. And his parents, who were super smart people, Mary and Patrick Tillman. Mary in particular, this is a woman who takes no bullshit from nobody. She is tough as nails.
Nice.
She was a special ed teacher in San Jose Schools District system. Like, she could handle shit. Like, you can't intimidate her. And she was saying, they're trying to find out, like, what happened, and they're being very cagey with the details, but they're all like, oh, he was very heroic and he was saving his team. And the family said he actually gave his wife a card. I'm going to get teary-eyed. He gave his wife a card before he left, and he says, if I die, open this up. And when he died, she opened it up, and he basically said, I love you and I want you to live your life. I want you to live. Right? So his family, the military wanted to do this big parade, this big thing for his funeral. And his family is like, no, we're going to put, ashes. Sorry. What's the word I'm thinking of? We're going to
cremate him.
Thank you. Cremate his ashes. We're going to put him in the ocean. We're going to have a simple ceremony, just the family. We're just going to drink beers and talk about him. And they were like, fine, but we're going to do something in Arizona anyway. And so John McCain led, and Maria Shriver and all these people who never met Pat. And in all fairness, that's what happens sometimes in these military stories. I mean, it becomes the story. And so John McCain, and they're all talking about God, has a new angel waiting for him, and he
LOL
bled the red, white, and blue, and the angels are now taking care of him, and blah, blah, blah. And
he would hate that. He would.
His family. So one of his brothers is drinking a beer out of a cup, like he's at a game or something, or whatever. He's drinking a beer, and he goes up to give his speech, and he's like, I didn't mean to be disrespectful, y'all, but my brother didn't buy any of that stuff, and he's fucking dead now. And it was on CNN. It was on everywhere. Yeah. Turns out he was killed by, it's fratricide. It's a friendly fire. And friendly fire is when you're killed by another member of your unit. And it happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of disarray and chaos sometimes in combat. But there was a lot of he stood out as a member of the army. He stood out.
Right.
And they wondered, was there some kind of bounty on him? Was there some sort of... So they had to basically go to courts. And what they did was they burned his clothes. They burned his journals. They got rid of all this basically evidence, stuff they weren't supposed to do. And so his family was fighting for years.
Yeah.
And they had to go to Congress and say, and they would get sent these reports that are all blacked out, and they had didn't have all the information.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Eventually, they find out that it was accidental. It wasn't on purpose. There have been a few books out there. John Krakauer has a book out there. There was a documentary about him.
Mm-hmm.
His family, what they've created, Marie did go on to live, and she's super smart, and she went to UC Santa Barbara. She worked for ESPN for a while. She's in Chicago now. She did get remarried. She had 5 kids. She has 5 kids. She's on the board for like a bunch of companies, and she helped start the Pat Tillman Foundation. And it's a foundation that is scholarships for people who were veterans or veteran spouses for life after serving. So what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to learn? How do you want to contribute to your community? And they have very strong principles of service and also humility and being humble with knowledge and being humble about what you do and being curious. That. Yeah, right? And so every year they give out a couple $1 million in scholarships to people, to families for veterans.
Wow.
And they have a run every year, the Pat Tillman run. I think it's like April 13th in Tempe. And he's still like a big deal at San Jose State at Leland High School. The football field was named after him. There's lots of monuments to him around the country. Yeah. So, yes, there is sort of this asterisk when you bring up Pat Tillman. And yes, the NFL is like, hey, this great guy that served this country was a member of the NFL. All that's true. They don't bring up, but he was killed by someone and who probably wasn't trying to kill him, and he had his head blown off, but whatever, Yeah. But we're doing this now. But it's a wonderful nonprofit. They are rated very highly. Nonprofits are rated in this country, so you know who to give your money to and who not to. It's very highly rated. Marie Tillman's a big part of it. If you look at their website, it's pattillmanfoundation.org, O-R-G. You can donate to them. You can do one of their runs if you want to, but you're helping people who've served our country, like, go on with their service to their communities in whatever way they want to. Mm-hmm. So that's our creep this week, Pat Tillman.
Great job, Margot. That is a very excellent pick.
He's worth it.
Yes, I agree.
Well, alrighty then. That is our show this week. If you like the sound of our voices, and by golly, why wouldn't you?
Right? We're a delight.
We're a goddamn delight. We co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. And Sonia, what are we going to be dorking out about next?
We are going to be talking about The Way We Were. Did I pronounce it correctly?
You did that right. Yes.
Good job. I've been saying it wrong. This is first time watch for me. I'm very excited for it.
It's got a great soundtrack.
It does. And we're inspired. We were sent the book called
The Way They
Were. And it's a whole behind the scenes of the making of the movie. So we thought it would be fun to do an episode on the movie. So there you go.
And it's Barbara Streisand and Robert Redford. They're gorgeous.
So handsome.
So handsome. And Marvin Hamlish songs. So it's going to be really fun.
Come on.
And then we also give our pop culture rec. So if you're looking for stuff to stream or ideas for that, that's coming up on that show for Dorking Out. We, once again, thank you so much for listening. And we always take in suggestions for creeps and for non-creeps. Please follow us on all those social media places I stated at the top of the show. And we love when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one when you have a suggestion, or use something else. Y'all are clever people. You can figure that shit out.
Whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you. Rate, review, subscribe. Please do that. That really helps us find other people that are just as cool as you are. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and the TikTok. Where can people find you, Margot?
I'm a little more complicated these days. So at Twitter, I'm at Brooklyn Margot, M-A-R-G-O. On Instagram, I'm at Brooklyn Fitchick. My site is brooklynfitchick.com. And I'm on TikTok at Margot Donahue. All right, y'all. Like we always say, stay safe, be kind to each other. Don't be a creep.
Be a creep. Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.